Hi, welcome back to Shape Up with Sue Daley. Today we're going to be working with clamshells. Clamshells are one of those shapes that people just love the look of them, but they just shy right away from them because they have no idea how to put them together. It took a while for me to work out an easy, simple way with, not too many problems, not too many hassles, to get them together so that they stay straight. And I achieved that, and I think that now that there's such an easy way to put them together, more and more people will try them and use them in their quilts and small projects. So clamshells started off as a circle. The shape starts as a circle, and then we take 2 bites out of the bottom sides of it, out of each side. So this particular clamshell started off as a 2-inch circle, and we took a bite from one side and the other, and that created the clamshell. Here's a little clamshell sewing keep that I've made, and it's using the 2-inch clamshells, that same size there. And I've created a little sewing keep that you can keep all your little sewing things in, your rotary cutter and threads and needles and things like that. So we're going to work with those today. Now first of all, we would take a template like we have for the rest of our shapes. So we have the acrylic template, and we're going to pop it onto our fabric, and we're going to draw around the outside edge of it. Now the reason we don't cut it out with a rotary cutter is simply because that you can't cut on that tight curve there. It's all very well to cut around the outside with a rotary cutter, but in there it's really tight, and all you'll do is keep hitting the template and blunting the blade in your rotary cutter, and therefore you've got to replace it. So you don't want to be doing that. So it's easier just to pop the template straight onto your fabric, take a pencil, trace around the outside of your shape, and as you can see I have more than one layer there. I'm going to take a sharp pair of scissors, and I'm going to cut, simply cut on the drawn line right around the edges. And remember, it doesn't have to be exact. English paper piecing is one of those techniques that's very forgiving, so your seam allowance doesn't have to be exactly a 1/4 inch. So there we have some little clamshell shapes. Now like last week, we're going to be working with a curved edge, so it's important to be a little bit assertive while you're pulling that fabric over the curved edge, so you'll eliminate any puckers and points and bits sticking out. So take one of your pieces, place your paper onto the top, and we're going to glue around the curved edge. So we're going to start from one side, and we're going to glue all the way around, and make sure you've got glue right down at that very point. Then you're going to take your fabric and pull it over. Be really assertive and drag your finger around that curve, pulling that fabric in really, really tight. Okay, now the most important thing there is that you've pulled it tight, you don't have any points on your curve, but when you get to these 2 little pieces on either side here, you need to make sure that you have pulled the fabric really tight at that point, because the fabric naturally wants to sit out on an angle. And the neater you are with this part, the easier it's going to be for you to sew these together. So preparation is the key with these. You need to be really good in your preparation, then sewing them together becomes just a simple task. So what you're going to do is just the top edge. You're not going to fold those bottom edges over, you're going to leave them just like that. Okay, so you're going to make a whole bunch of those, and then we're going to take them and we're going to sew them all up into a long line like a daisy chain. So you're going to take two of these little clamshells, and you're going to put them together, you're going to line them up, and you're going to make sure that the very point where that curve starts, it is lined up exactly right there. So fold those little seam allowances back just for the minute to find out, make sure that you've got them lined up. You're going to take a needle and thread, and you're going to have a knot in the end of it, and you're going to bring your needle up in between the card and the fabric, right at that very point. And we're going to take 3 stitches there at that point. This is called kissing the points. So we're going to take 3 stitches, and those 3 stitches are going to be on top of each other. So like almost like a satin stitch, but over and over and over on top of each other. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to leave a little tail, and we're just going to clip that off. Okay, so you're going to have something that looks like that. So you're going to continue along in a row, and you're going to make it as long as you need to make it. So for instance, this here, with the clamshell sewing keep, we started off with 6 clamshells for the first row, and then 5 clamshells, 6 clamshells, 5 clamshells. Our little row, so I've made 6, and I've kissed all the points. Now for these are for your rows of clamshells to stay straight. You need to make sure that where you've kissed them is exactly on the points of where the curved edge starts, right there. Okay, so you'll have a row of 6 to start with. You're going to put those down, and at this point I start to work on my ironing surface. So I'll just pull it in here so you can see it. So what I do is I take a piece of fabric. When I'm working with 2-inch clamshells, I would take a piece of fabric 2.5 inches wide, and as long as I need it to be, a little bit longer than what I need it to be. So in this instance, I have a piece of fabric that's 2.5 inches wide, and I'm going to fold it in half down the length, and I'm going to press it to get a fold line. And that's going to be my straight edge that I work with to start with. Okay, place it onto your ironing board, lay it out like that. I take my 6 clamshells, and I'm going to take some Busy Fingers applique glue, and I'm going to put 3 small spots of glue around the outside edge of each clamshell. Now be careful not to use too much glue. People get a little bit carried away with this glue, and there's no need to. Again, my policy is normally less is more, so not too much, and remember it will always wash out when you've finished your quilt. Okay, so here I have my clamshells, and I have 3 little spots of glue on each clamshell around that curved edge. I'm going to take that and I'm going to line it up with the fold line. So the very top of my clamshell is going to line up with the fold line. And when you've got it in position, I would take my iron and I would iron it. Now the glue will of course dry on its own. However, as I've said before, I don't have time to wait for glue to dry. It's like watching grass grow. So I would iron that so that my glue will dry quickly, and then I'm ready to sew. So here we have one here. Okay, now I'm going to applique from here around, all around the curved edges. So from here around, all the way down till we get to the other end. Okay, so if you're right-handed, you'll sew from right to left across the top of your work. If you're left-handed, you will sew from left to right across the top of your work. So that's just with a little applique stitch. I use the bottom line thread, or you can use cotton thread if you like, and I use my nice fine milliner's 11 needle. So when you've got it to that stage and you've appliqued around the top edge, you can take it to the ironing board. I give it a bit of a press, and then it comes time to take out the first row of papers. Okay, so I'm going to just pull that back in my fingers. I get my thumb in there and I peel back that first little corner, and I pull it out and I pull it around like that. Don't try and pull them straight out. You need to pull them out in the same direction that your curve goes. So I'm going to pull them out just like that. So you can see they're quite easy to get out. And again, with these curved shapes, you can actually reuse them a number of times. So if you're doing a big quilt, then you can probably get about 2 or 3 uses out of each paper. And get to the last one, and again just pull it out. Then you end up with something that looks like that. Just pull the ends of it and it all pops back out. Okay, and it's all ready to go for the next row. So I would then put it on my ironing board again. I'd give it a little press to get all the wrinkles out that I've just created. And I'm going to then take my next row, which I've kissed all the points. So this row's got 5 in it. Okay, so I've got 6 in the first row. I'm going to have 5 in the next row. So I'm going to lay that over, and I'm going to put my 3 small spots of applique glue around each curved edge of each clamshell. Again, not too much glue. I'm going to take that and I'm going to flick it over, and I'm then going to line it up so the very middle of each clamshell is going to sit right at the point where we kissed these clamshells, right where we did our little 3 stitches where we sewed each one together. So that stray thread there, zip it right up there like that. Make sure they're all lined up, make sure it's pleasing to the eye. Then you can iron that, and then you're going to applique it again, right-handers right to left across the top, left-handers left to right across the top, and then you'll end up with 2 rows. Press it, and then you're going to remove the papers from the back, and you're going to continue on until you make it as big or as small as you like. Okay, so that you can see that's really simple. I just love these clamshells. I think 2-inch clamshells are going to be the new 1-inch hexagons. Everybody's going to be doing them. They're just brilliant. They're great for borders. You can make little stacks with them and put them around the outside of a border. You can make a full border. You can make a full quilt with this. You can add them to corners of blocks. They're just fantastic. So I hope that you take the opportunity and try for yourself this really simple technique. For anybody who's thinking about working with the clamshells, a great way to start is perhaps getting your hands on a 5-inch stacker. This is a great little stacker from Riley Blake Fabrics. It's called Ladybug Garden, and you can actually get 4 clamshells, 2-inch clamshells out of each piece. If you set them on an angle around the outside, you can get 4 out of each piece of fabric. So you're going to create a lot of clamshells out of a 5-inch stacker. So that's a great way to start, and then there's absolutely no waste involved. And then you can just sew them up and make a small quilt, like a miniature quilt, or you can make something like the clamshell sewing keep, or whatever you like really. But you know, sometimes when you're making a bag or a little purse or something and you're making out of plain fabric, you might just want to piece up some clamshells, and instead of using just one piece of plain fabric, piece up your clamshells and then cut the pattern from your pieced clamshell, and that'll create a whole different effect for you and something quite beautiful. So remember, these are a great little thing to use, and no waste. And just remember, you've been watching Shape Up with Sue Daley, and next week I hope you join us, and we're going to attack the apple core. So again, another curved shape, but I think you'll be surprised at how easy they go together.